what's going on? Welcome to the Bottom Line Podcast, your home for sports and entertainment talk. Jimmy Finizzi, Mr. Taco, a.k.a. Austin Myers with you. We hope you're doing well. As always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to take a listen or view us. We truly appreciate it. Be sure to hit us up on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, at BottomLine WM6. Don't forget to use hashtag BottomLine. Austin, this is a big day for you personally, and I know this because I am entering unfamiliar territory right now, once again, because not only are we going to be talking about NASCAR and racing today, but we are going to be interviewing one of the youngest drivers in the entire NASCAR series, and that would happen to be the one and only Kaz freaking Grala. Austin, I'm actually really, really excited. I know you've talked to him before on a previous podcast, so this is kind of a big deal for you.
This is a huge deal for me. Not only being that I get to talk to him, but I've followed Kaz since the beginning of his Truck Series career. So it's like,
there you go.
A little bittersweet to me.
There you go. But yeah, I have some of his accomplishments up here. I took some notes today, actually, believe it or not. I actually came prepared for a little bit for this.
I'm so proud of you.
I try. And hey, listen, it is my birthday. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of this guy, so hopefully this will be a heck of a gift for me personally. But no, in all seriousness, I'm really excited.
We're gonna make sure he tells you happy birthday too.
You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it.
No, it's gonna happen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you to everybody who has wished me happy birthday so far. I really do appreciate it.
I didn't even remember until now, so happy birthday, bud.
well, thank you, Austin. Hey, you know what? At least you wished me it, but it's all good. But with that being said, though, this is going to be really, really exciting stuff. So we want you guys to sit back, relax, and have a good time and enjoy our exclusive interview with the one and only Kaz Grala. Sit back and enjoy.
Well, we're back, and we have a very, very special guest. It is none other than a guy I have looked up to since the beginning of his career, Mr. Kaz Grala. Kaz, how are you today?
I'm living the dream. Thanks for having me on.
No problem.
Dude, anytime. Dude, it's our pleasure. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk to us two geezers over here, but we're not going to waste any more time and get into this. So I kind of have a first question here. As anybody who knows by now knows, I love origin stories. I can't help it. I got to know how a person got started. Also, I know you obviously have a couple questions for him, and I'll get to you in a little bit. But with that being said, Kaz, I got to ask, how did you first get into NASCAR/racing? I know I read that your father was actually a sports car driver himself, but other than that, though, how did you personally first get into NASCAR?
I think that's an interesting question because it's specific,
right,
into NASCAR. I got into racing when I was 4. In go-karts, road courses, and I did that all the way till I was 9 years old and had a blast doing that. And that, that was a bit of a hobby. It was for fun. I mean, you're a kid. It's not like you can really call that a career or anything serious at that point. It was just something fun that I did. And I played Little League and tennis and soccer. I played all the sports that little kids play, but I just also had go-karting as part of that list, which I guess was a little bit less traditional. Definitely less traditional for a kid out of Boston, Massachusetts. We love our all sports. There's not very much motorsports up there. It's certainly not at the forefront of anyone's mind. So I was definitely an oddity at that age, go-karting. But the real story of how I got into NASCAR and got onto this side of motorsports would be when I was 9 years old. I went to a camp at VIR called Camp Motorsport. It was a 1 week overnight camp. Obviously, I was very young at 9, so being from Massachusetts and the camp being in Virginia, my parents stayed in a hotel in Virginia for the week while I was at the camp. You know, they didn't want to be half a coastline away from their little baby at the time. So they were hanging out in Virginia and looking for stuff to do, and they saw Charlotte's only a few hours away, so they went down to Charlotte and heard that the summer shootout was racing on Tuesday night. They had nothing better to do, so they went and watched. You know, we always loved racing, but my dad, he raced sports cars, and so he was more aware of the sports car, IndyCar, Formula One, you know, road racing stuff. Obviously knew NASCAR, watched NASCAR. I had been to a NASCAR race in the grandstands when I was like 6. So we were around it, but that wasn't really his wheelhouse. So they went and watched the short track racing at Charlotte and happened to sit next to Tim Cindric in the grandstands. And they got to talking, and turns out Tim's son was also 9 years old, or 10 years old, I think, racing Bandoleros at the summer shootout. So they became friends. They had no idea who Tim was at the time. But Tim offered, you know, hey, if your son wanted to come out and do a test session in Austin's Bando just to see what it's like, see if he likes it, and maybe this is something you guys get into, then come out and do that. So a couple weeks later, I went down to the Charlotte 5th Mile back behind the Speedway and drove Austin Cindric's Bandolero for a few laps. And those were my very first laps ever on an oval. Up until that point, I had made more right turns than I'd made left turns. So that was when I was 9. And that was really kind of what started that transition, because, of course, I loved it. I got a Bandolero and ended up being teammates with Austin and with Myatt. It was the three of us on the Bando team driving for Mike Gordon Racing.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, that was that. I did that for 3 years, then did Legends from there, and then from that point had more of a traditional NASCAR ascent, you know, late model stock cars, the K&N Series East, super late models. And that's all the stuff that I drove up until I got to the truck series. So, you know, I think everyone lately has labeled me as a road course racer. I think that's purely because I've happened to do more NASCAR races on road courses lately, just with the way my part-time schedules have fallen.
Yeah.
But I guess I drove on road courses from when I was 4 till I was 9, but I'd say that totally makes me like a road course ringer. Since I was 9 years old, I've done nothing but ovals, short tracks, you know, more typical. So, I mean, I think I'd call myself more of an oval guy than a road course guy, but I just love the road courses. I think they're so much fun. Yeah, I've had some good success on them. So I'm a big fan of the road courses. I'm glad they added a bunch to the schedule. But yeah, people kind of think that that's totally where I came from. And like, no, I raced at Hickory and Caraway and South Boston Speedway for years and years and years. Legends and late models, super late models, like that's where I come from. So, you know, coming off a weekend like Martinsville, I wasn't racing, I was just watching, but Martinsville is less than 2 hours from where I live in North Carolina. So I drove up to Martinsville this weekend, sat in the grandstands, grabbed a couple of hot dogs, and watched the races.
Nothing wrong with that. Now, that was going to kind of lead me into my follow-up question. I'll get to Austin in a little while. I apologize.
Hold on.
What, Austin? What's wrong? What's wrong?
He brought something up in his career. He brought something up that I really want to.
Oh, no. Go ahead. I apologize.
And it was how he talked about how he's been friends with Cindric and Snyder since they were young.
Right.
And you've seen Cindric through his success, and you've seen Myatt try and do what he can to better himself as a driver. So my question is, when Cindric won the Xfinity Championship and won the Daytona race this year, was it kind of surreal knowing that you've seen him or you've been friends with him since he was young?
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny how the three of us all started when I was 9, Austin was 10, and Myatt, I think he's a couple years older. He was like 11, and we were the 3 teammates on our Bando team. And it's funny that now we're all racing on Saturdays and Sundays up at the national level of NASCAR together. So that is cool to see. And yeah, Cindric, I mean, how about that? He's had quite the start to his
he's had one heck of a start.
He's run really well, but he backed it up too. Like he won really the Daytona 500, and he was fast, ran up front, finished well at California and Vegas. Like he's legit, killing it in Cup this year. So that's really, really cool to see. And I have no doubt that his career is going to have a lot of success. I think Team Penske is going to be at the front of the curve of learning these next gen cars because of Team Penske's diverse background as a race team, all the different series they do compete in. All of a sudden you change the rear end and the suspension, the way these cars work, and you're not going to be able to change it to anything that they haven't seen before in other series. So I think they've done an excellent job at catching on, and Cindric's been right on the forefront of that success.
Oh yeah.
Wow, absolutely. Now, Kaz, my follow-up question was going to be this. You're only 23 years old. Obviously, you started racing at a very young age. Now, before I get into my follow-up question here, let me ask Austin this, because I don't think I ever asked you this. And this may be a little bit personal. How old are you, Austin?
20.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm the old geezer in the room. I just turned 28. I'm old. But anyway, with that being said, having started racing at such a young age, obviously the nerves were kicking in. I understand what that's like. You're only 23, so you always have a long career ahead of you, and I'm rooting for you all the way. Do you still get nervous whenever you go out there to compete for a race?
I used to get so nervous for races. Like, so nervous I couldn't eat on the day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm talking, this was when I was in like bandits racing bandoleros at the summer shootout. And the summer shootout race, the racing starts at like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. I couldn't eat that day if I was racing that. And that was when I was 9-10 years old. And I used to think that, at that age, all I would think about was, well, gosh, I want to make it. I want to make it in NASCAR. I want to get to Cup and nationwide and trucks. But I'm like, if I'm this nervous now, I would pass out if I had to make like a nationwide start or a Cup start. I'm like, that would be the most nerve-wracking thing in the world. I don't know if I'll be able to handle that. Well, that's what I thought, is that those nerves would rise as you got higher. But it's honestly been just the opposite. And I think the reason behind that, of course I've gotten older, I've matured, but I think that there's some level of relief and relaxation the higher up you get, because you feel like you're closer to where you want to be. You're closer to achieving what you've been working for your whole life. There's some peace in, when you're really young, you're in legend cars, you're in late models, you still have so far to go. There's still so much more to learn, so many more levels to get through, so many more challenges and obstacles that have definitely been hard on me. And as you see, I haven't raced full time the last few years. It's definitely been difficult for me to try to scratch and claw my way back into seats and get more races, and always trying to find sponsorship to be able to race more. And this year has really come together nicely. I'm getting way more races than I've gotten the last few years. But
that's awesome.
As you kind of work towards being closer to where you want to be, ultimately, I feel like it's less pressure because you're much closer. I got that opportunity a couple of years ago to fill in for Austin in the 3-car at RCR. And again, I thought that would be the scary, well, truly, when you look at the circumstances, that's about as bad as it gets. You get 24 hours of notice to go sit in like the most famous Cup car with no practice during COVID, with no practice.
Oh gosh.
You have to start in the back, dead last. So it's like, well, that's about as bad of a situation as you could imagine. So you would think I'd be terrified, but the truth is, it was it was fun, and I was able to enjoy the weekend because it was one of those times where even though you're in the moment, you know that that's going to be one of the best memories that you have for your whole life. If you never race again after that, that is the coolest moment ever. It's not one that you need to say, oh, looking back on it, I should have enjoyed those times more. I should have soaked that in more. No, I knew in the moment how big of a deal that was. So I was actually able to enjoy the weekend and kind of soak it all in. And, you know, on the pace laps, I was driving around, I was in 10th on the pace laps because that's where Austin would have started, was 10th based on last week's metric. And you know, driving around it, I've got Jimmy Johnson in his last season in the 48 car in my mirror on the pace laps. And, you know, it was the little details like that I really enjoyed and was able to soak in the moment and know how cool that was. And then obviously I ended up finishing 7th in that race. So that was a lot better than way better than I expected. I'd say way better than probably anybody expected. So that was just the icing on the cake for the weekend. So that's one of those weekends that, I mean, it doesn't matter what you go on to do. If I end up, you know, going back to college and just having a normal desk job someday, or if I go on to win, you know, 15 Formula One World Championships, it doesn't matter where you end up. That weekend that I had in the 3-car will forever be one of, if not the coolest things to happen in my life.
I'm going to throw this back to 2018 because there was a lot of unexpected things that happened in 2018 for you in your career. You started with JGL, and then they quote unquote released you, and then you started up. It was with your father where you guys started up the other team it was Fury, and that was just a spur of a moment thing, correct?
Yeah, it was really short notice. So, you know, I went into that season with a contract for a full-time Xfinity season with this team, JGL, and we had a good start to the year. Finished 4th at Daytona. That was my Xfinity debut, and then we had some other top 12 finishes in those first few races. But the first 5 races were really good. The next 5 races, things started to fall apart a little bit at the team. I think budget was running a little bit thin for them. And I don't think that they were really being able to do everything that they needed to do to operate at the level that we did in the first few races. So the performance dropped off a little bit. And then evidently we learned the owner was having some health concerns. And so he pulled back the funding from the team. Ultimately, he ended up, he didn't even just release me. He shut the team down. He shut it was a 2-car team. He shut our car down after the 10th race. I think that other car, I think, went 2 more races, and then that car shut down too. So the team just completely went away. But I got a little lucky with the timing where he closed my car down after the 10th race, and that happened to precede 2 off weekends for Xfinity. So we had 3 weeks until that next race. And that gave us just barely enough time to try to start up our own deal. And it worked out because of course the contract was not fulfilled by not doing the full season for me. What he ended up doing was he gave me 3 of the cars because he was shutting the team down. He didn't need them. And he was like, well, you know, this will be your payout here is you'll get the cars. And I'm like, well, what the heck?
Right.
3 Xfinity cars. I was 19 years old. I live in a little apartment. I now own 3 Xfinity cars. What am I supposed to do with that? But my dad owns Fury race cars, which is a late model and modified manufacturer. And so we took the cars over there and we were like, well, can we get something going here where we can run these cars maybe? And turns out everyone on my Xfinity car at JGL that was let go because of the car shutting down, well, they're all looking for work, and they were like, well, yeah, why don't we just keep going? We'll come back. So I ended up keeping my same crew chief, my same engineer, same car chief. It was pretty much the exact same group that was at JGL operating the car, but now was at Fury. And we basically just said, hey, anytime we've got sponsorship to go, we'll go. And we didn't end up running full time, but we ran another 12 races. So I think in total we did 22 out of those 33 races that year, and had some top 10s, a few top 5s. And for us, I mean, we were underdogs. JGL was an underdog, and we were definitely underdogs as Fury, competing against Gibbs and RCR and Junior Motorsports, and we were out there doing a good job. So I think that was probably the main reason I ended up being able to come up here onto the RCR campus. Following that year was at Michigan in our Fury car. I led laps and ran up front all day, ended up actually getting shipped by Austin Dillon for the win. He knocked us back into turn 1, knocked us back to 12th. That was from the lead. Caution comes out, it rains, the race is over.
Yep.
I
remember that.
Lord.
He won that race, but that was when Hemrick was in the 21 car. So I raced with the two of them up front for much of the race. Them and Sadler it was 4 of us pretty much up front duking it out. So I think that was probably what kind of first made my name known here at RCR, because they were having to deal with me in that race. So ended up coming here the next year, and as you know, this is kind of where I've ended up for the last few years, moving around wherever the opportunity is at colleague. So I've been involved in the group up here at RCR for a couple of years, and actually I can say this because the news just broke while we have been talking. I'm going to be driving the 48 car in the Xfinity series for at least the next couple of races.
Really?
Nice.
Oh, really?
Nice. Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this team, that's where I'm sitting right now. This team is on the RCR campus this year. They just moved in up here, and they work really closely with RCR and have an alliance. So a little bit of a homecoming for me again. It's been a couple months since I've been in these meetings up here on campus, but I'm back working with many familiar faces that I've seen the last few years. So that should be fun. That'll be there. Xfinity's off this weekend, but I'm not. I'm going to be in the truck for Sports on Bristol Dirt, which should be fun. I did not do this race last year, so don't really know what to expect, but I know I'll have a lot of fun. So that's this weekend. Then Talladega the next weekend, and Dover the weekend after that in the 48 car. So it should be a cool little stretch here for me.
Dropping a little breaking news here. I like it. We're talking to Kaz Grala, NASCAR driver here on the Bottom Line podcast. You mentioned Austin Dillon before. I wanted to bring this up because I thought this was very, very fascinating stuff. Back in August of 2020, you actually got the call to fill in for Austin Dillon after he tested positive for COVID in the Go Bowling 235, and you would finish 7th in your Cup debut. Tell me what that meant to you. I know Austin Dillon is somebody you look up to. So what did that mean for you to sort of fill in for him when he was down and out for the count at the time?
It was really cool that Austin and everyone at RCR trusted me to get in that car, having never made a Cup start before. Because, I mean, what you don't see is RCR here is a massive campus of
it's huge,
a dozen buildings and 400 employees in total. So this is a really, really big operation, and they're working off of, I don't even know, some like 20 something million dollar budgets per car in the Cup series. They're one of the top organizations. So there's a lot behind this program. So to have somebody step into a car and drive it is a big deal, because there's a lot on the line. There's a lot for their partners on the line, a lot for all of their employees. If you go wreck a car, or if you have a really bad race and they don't get good owner points, like that all matters a lot. This is a professional sports team with a high budget and a lot of partners, a lot riding on it. So it was really, really flattering that they trusted me behind the wheel and thought that I was the best guy for the job that weekend. And that's really why I was so happy to finish where I did, was because I felt like I proved to everybody here that they didn't make a crazy decision. Because going into it, you probably could say it was a crazy decision. I mean, you got a driver out and they put somebody in with no practice that's never driven a Cup car before, someone that at the time had driven 7 Xfinity races in total for them. I was pretty brand new and had just gotten my feet wet a little bit in their Xfinity cars, and they put me in that weekend. So I mean, it was pretty gutsy of them, and definitely could have backfired in a big way. So that was kind of my goal going into the race, was just don't do anything stupid. Wherever I finish, that's fine. Just don't do anything stupid for myself and for all of them. We just needed to have a decent day, and I think that no matter where we had finished, if I had done that and done a solid job and a respectable job, I think everyone would have been thrilled. And that's all they expected of me, was just, their goal was to have me go in and just run a mediocre, clean race, nothing exciting, and that'll be a good day to get through the situation with Austin being out. But of course, we went out and we did well, and I know everybody was thrilled. So that was cool.
Awesome.
There's no doubt that was a turning point in my career, because it put me into conversations towards the end of 2020 that I absolutely was not in otherwise. I was the top candidate, very, very close to getting the Go Fast Racing 32 car.
Oh man.
Which they ended up selling the charter. But if they hadn't sold the charter, I was really deep into talks with them, and I got pretty far along in talks with Front Row Motorsports for the 38 car. I ultimately ended up driving the College Cup car, and had a pretty good, we did 3 races on the plate tracks. We wrecked in 2 of them and finished 6th in the other one. So, plate racing, that's how it goes.
It's a crap show.
Yeah, but pretty much.
It put me in a position to earn a lot of opportunities that I didn't have before then. So I'll forever be grateful for RCR for putting me in for that weekend and really helping me out a lot. And now it's 2 years later, and they're still stuck with me up here on campus. It's led to a lot of cool opportunities for me, and has helped my career significantly. So now I get the opportunity to get in the 48 car and see how well we do together. This is in itself a pretty new organization, only its second year, and it's its first year working with RCR here. So everybody is really trying to grow it and do really well, and they have all the resources that they want here at RCR, and I have no doubt that we're going to be able to do really good things together. So I don't know how many races I'll be in. I know I'll be in for Talladega and Dover, and we'll go from there. And
I mean, that 48 team, they've had some very good results with Jade. I believe they've had a few top 15s, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and they've had great speed. And this year, man, the Xfinity Series is stacked this year. I drove a couple races earlier this year for Alpha Prime Racing.
For Alpha Prime, yeah.
Learned firsthand, like, the field is really deep this year. You got the first 12 to 15 cars that can win any given weekend, but you've got from probably 12th back to 30th that are all pretty even on speed, and it's a dogfight back there for 26th, for 27th. In the old days, the field was a lot more shallow. If you just had a decent driver, you'd run top 20. Now, I mean, you're racing good guys and good team. The key is good teams with good motors this year. There's a lot of them, and they go all the way back through the top 30 there. And they've been sending cars home every week. There hasn't been one Xfinity race yet that they haven't sent cars home from. That's how big the field is and tough the qualifying is. So, frankly, for Alpha Prime, our goal was to make the race every week. That's a big enough challenge this year in Xfinity. It's really, really good. So we certainly have our work cut out for us here with the 48 group. The series is incredibly healthy this year, but meeting everybody here, seeing their cars and hearing what their plan is, they absolutely have everything that they need to be able to do this and do this well. And they've started to show that already, and we're hoping to keep on the growth.
That's really awesome. I'm sorry, Austin, go ahead.
So I do want to bring up this year with Money Team and the Next Gen. I would like to know how this came about, And then I kind of want to know your thoughts on the next gen car.
Yeah, well, that's one of those conversations actually that came about from that race in the 3-car in 2020. So I already started working with the money team at the end of 2020. And it was originally to potentially do what we're doing this year, a couple of starts sprinkled in 2021. But with COVID, the sponsorship moved a little bit slower than they anticipated for timing. And it turned out that we were going to be able to do a better job and be more ready for the 2022 season. So that ended up being our plan. And it didn't really get firmed up. It started getting firmer around Thanksgiving last year. But it was not 100% that this is happening until actually the first week of January. So it took some time to move everything along and to get it where we needed to get to be confirmed. But we ended up getting the next gen car delivered from NASCAR about the middle of January, and 33 days after we received the chassis, we raced in the duel and made it into the Daytona 500. So it was a really quick timeline. They did a great job getting the car together from scratch and did a nice job with it. And we made the Daytona 500, and then we raced at COTA. We finished 25th, which, may not seem flashy to somebody who isn't real familiar with the sport. 25th sounds pretty far back, but you look at the Cup field, the teams, the drivers, it's stacked.
And I mean, you not even just look at the field, you look at the track it was at. COTA of all places. COTA's a very difficult track to race, let alone in a Cup car.
Yeah, and it was a field of 39 teams and drivers. So that means we beat 14 really, really impressive organizations. I think we beat 2311. I think we beat both of their cars. We beat, I think, a Roush car. But we ran all day, pretty much right ahead of or behind Keselowski, and most of the day ahead of Kurt Busch. So, for us, for our team, that was a really great outing. And we showed great speed and did a good job. So that's obviously a brand new organization. So they're growing and getting better and trying to gain people and gain time, gain sponsorship, build out their program. And so this is just the start. And I feel like we're already doing a better job than probably where we should be at this point. So that's been cool to be a part of. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather coming into the sport is a big story, and it's been really cool to be the driver that they picked to be behind the wheel. But yeah, it all stems back to that Cup debut late in 2020 is what put me in the conversations that I've been in. And you the next gen car. I love the next gen car. I think it's really fun to drive. It's a challenge. I think that they need to do something about the package for the short tracks, because I feel like the next gen cars make less aero grip than the old cars, but more mechanical grip. So you see on the big tracks at Fontana, at Vegas, you saw guys had their hands full. Gosh, in California, I think they wrecked half the field before there was ever a race. It was everybody really, really challenged with this car, and I think that's how it should be when you're at the top level of stock car racing in the world, the top form of motorsports in the U.S. Shouldn't be easy. The drivers should be challenged, and they should really have to be on their game to drive these cars. I think that's perfect. But we've come to Richmond, we've come to Martinsville now. We've got these really wide tires on the next gen car, much wider than what they've had. And they've got brakes, that independent rear suspension. All of it adds up to the car having a lot of mechanical grip, which on a track like Martinsville, that's all you need. You're not worried about it at Martinsville. You're worried about mechanical grip. And you saw the cars were really gripped up. It even was to the point where you saw guys bumping each other, trying to move each other out of the way in the middle of the corner, and the car wouldn't budge.
It just wouldn't even budge. Yeah,
you'd get into the guy in front of you, and he'd just stay stuck. So,
right.
I think they're going to have to work on that a little bit. But gosh, it's a new car. What do you expect? I think that the debut of this car so far this year has probably gone a lot better than it should have. When you think of how much is new with the car, there could have been so many issues so far this year, and it's been pretty minimal. It's been a smooth transition, and we've seen, I would say, through the first 6 or so races, we've seen better, more exciting racing than we've seen in a while. And I think everyone was agreeing with that and feeling that way. We get to Richmond and Martinsville. I think the cars are maybe a little bit too gripped up, a little too easy to drive. But that this is what NASCAR does. They'll make adjustments. They'll make new rules packages for short tracks, maybe a different tire or more horsepower. They'll figure it out, and they'll dial the racing into where it needs to be. I think a lot of the drivers coming out of the last couple of weeks have had the same feedback. So everybody's kind of working towards the same thing. The goal of what we want for racing, of what the fans want to see and what the drivers want to feel right now, seems to be the same direction. So I have no doubt that they're going to dial that in and get the short tracks good. But what I can say is I've heard some feedback from Stuart Friesen's test in the next gen car at Bristol Dirt. And we've seen the feedback, the videos. It looks like it's going to be awesome. I think these cars.
I think they're going to help. Yeah.
They look like they work really well on the dirt. I mean, Stewart was flying around there.
He really was.
Yeah. So I'm a lot of the drivers. I'm not doing the Cup car this weekend, just the truck. But I've heard a lot of the guys pretty excited going into this weekend and think it's going to be really fun. So can't wait to see that one. I'll race Saturday in the truck and then head back home for Easter on Sunday. But we'll definitely have the TV on with the Cup race during Easter dinner, so that should be fun.
And
there you go.
And you talked about the next gen tires. We've seen the next gen tires have issues this year, and I just want to get it from a driver's standpoint with the quote unquote issues we've seen with the tire and the whole don't flat spot the tire because it will blow very easily. From the driver's standpoint, does that worry you when you're in the next gen car, or?
Well, we've seen the circumstances be worse when you get a flat tire because they can't easily tow the car back to pit lane. So that's definitely something that's been frustrating to see, because if you do get a flat tire, maybe you go a lap down. You shouldn't go multiple laps down. And there's been some that have, because it takes that long to get the cars towed back around to pit road. So that's different this year, but they've been working on that. And I don't feel like I've seen that since the first few races. So maybe they have fixed something, but that hasn't been as big of a storyline. The other issue we've seen is with the single lug. We've seen some wheels come off. Which of course is not good for your race, but it's also not safe. These wheels and the tires and wheels combined are something like 75 pounds. So you definitely don't want to see another car hit that at speed for the driver's sake, but you don't want it for the fans' sakes either. And in the grandstands or in the infield, because those tires, if they're moving quickly enough, can be pretty dangerous. So that's exactly why you see such a big penalty when a wheel comes off. It's a 4-race suspension and a fine for the team. It's a big deal. I had one come off in the Daytona 500 actually. Don't know how we didn't hit anything, because I went from facing forwards to facing backwards at 180 speed before I even knew what happened.
Before you were like,
we ended up finishing the race. We were just fine, which was crazy. But I think that's something they're actively working on. They're working on trying to figure out how the lug nuts can sync up with the hubs better, so that there's less mistakes made when attaching the lugs and helping them lock on better. So that's another thing. I'm sure they'll have that dealt with very, very quickly. We're seeing it less here as the season goes. So those are really the two things, and I think that they're both in the works and being fixed. But as a driver, you don't have time to worry about any of that stuff. You're out there to do your job, and you're not thinking about flat tires or flat spots or the wheel coming off. Because if you are thinking about that, then you're probably not doing very well in the race.
Exactly.
So, your job. Worry about that only.
Exactly. We're talking to NASCAR driver Kaz Grala here on the Bottom Line Podcast. Last one for me, Kaz. I just want to go back here on your accomplishments. And you've had quite a few over your young career so far. And there's a lot of accomplishments here. So please bear with me for a few seconds if you don't mind. At 18 years old, you became the youngest driver to make the NASCAR playoffs, the youngest NASCAR race winner at the Daytona International Speedway, and you also became the youngest NASCAR pole winner at the Daytona International Speedway. At 15 years old, you became the youngest driver to compete in an International Motor Sports Association race. And at 14, you became the youngest race winner, in UARA Stars. And if I can pull up your races here we go. In the NASCAR Cup Series, you had 6 races run over 3 years, finishing in the top 10 2 times. In the Xfinity Series, you had 37 races run over 5 years, finishing in the top 10 9 times. In the Camping World Truck Series, you have 38 races run over 5 years, with 1 win, 1 pole position win, and finishing in the top 10 17 times. So those are quite the accomplishments for you, and I'm very, very impressed. You're already starting to become one of my favorite people, by the way, and we can't thank you enough for coming on and talking to us a little bit about this. But looking back at all of your accomplishments in your 23-year career so far, what does all of this mean to you, knowing that you still have a long way to go in your NASCAR career?
Well, I look at it as nothing's ever definite. So I hope I have a long time left in my career, and I really would like to. This has been my dream forever since I was little, and my goal has been to become a Cup driver, make a living doing this. I'd love to be a full-time Cup driver someday. But I've had a lot of fun doing this, and you're reading off what I've done, and so I feel really, really pleased with what I have accomplished. And if it was all gone tomorrow, I've loved doing this. I wouldn't trade it for the world. This has been the best part of my life. It's my passion. So it means a lot to me, everything that I've been able to do and accomplish and race, and met a lot of great people, and just lifelong memories. But I hope to be able to keep making those and keep putting down stats as long as I can, and would love to just do this for my whole life, for my career. That's always a work in progress. I think the best way to get that momentum going for this being a long career is to land a full-time ride. And so that, that's been my priority for the last few years. And I went into 2019 with 5 races on my schedule.
Right.
Into 2020 with 5 races on my schedule. Went into 2021 with 4 races on my schedule. This year I go in with 18 now, adding Talladega and Dover, at least with the 48 team. We're looking at 20.
Okay.
You never know what I can pick up from here. So, just a few more races, and that will be the same number of races as a full-time truck season this year. So I'm definitely in the seat way more than I have been in the past few years, and it helps me a lot to stay in the rhythm, to stay warmed up, especially during COVID. It was really tough racing once every couple of months, and you have no practice and you have no qualifying, and you literally strap into the car and you just go race, and you haven't even raced in months.
Yeah.
And so that's really difficult. So this year has been great for me to be in the car a lot. I ran actually 2 doubleheader weekends this year, which I had never run in my life before this year.
Wow.
So I've gotten a lot of seat time so far this year, and will continue to as we go. And so all of that just prepares me for each race better. Feel good going into Bristol this weekend in the truck. I look, I'm not a dirt guy. We talked about my background. None of that included dirt, did it? Nope. It's certainly outside of my comfort zone, but shockingly, I did pretty well at Eldora the 1 year I ran it in trucks, 2017. I qualified 3rd overall and won my heat race. Started the race 3rd, and I was running, I think, 6th or 8th in the feature. when Christopher Bell spun, and I ended up T-boning him, killed our front end.
Ooh.
So we didn't finish the race, unfortunately, but we ran pretty solid for a kid that doesn't know anything about dirt. You know, I was running with the dirt guys. That's pretty much where I ran all day. So, gosh, I don't know what to expect with Bristol. I've never been there on dirt. I haven't done a single dirt race since Eldora in 2017. So I don't know, but I do remember how much fun it was. So I absolutely can't wait for this weekend. And I could go out and run in the back and be junk, or I could surprise myself again and maybe run really well. I don't know.
I mean,
wherever I'm running, it's going to be so much fun because I love dirt. I love Bristol. Bristol's one of the coolest places ever. So to do them both at the same time, I saw it on TV last year. I didn't even go to the race. So I'll walk through the gate this year seeing Bristol dirt for the first time. So I can't wait.
That's really awesome.
You talked about Eldora, and Eldora compared to the Bristol dirt race is pretty much a completely different beast because one's pretty much flat and the other's got a lot of banking to it.
Yeah, Eldora,
just to put it lightly.
Yeah, I was gonna put it track banking, but I was like,
very, very different. You know, Eldora is pretty fast for a dirt track, but Bristol's really, really fast and bigger, more banking. So totally different layout and a totally different type of dirt. So I don't know what to expect. I do know last year, I don't think they ever moved up to be like truly running on the wall, on the cushion, like they do at Eldora. So I don't know. I felt like I did a good job up top at Eldora, but that probably wasn't my wheelhouse. So we'll see at Bristol how different it is. We'll see what I'm able to do. But then I'll be in the Knoxville race in a couple months as well in trucks. So that track's now completely different. It's totally flat and tiny compared to both Bristol and Eldora. It's like a little short track for dirt. So totally don't know what to expect for either one of these, but it's going to be fun. And, you know, if I go out and if I can get a top 10 or something, I would say as a non-dirt guy, that'd be a great weekend for me. And if you looked at the entry list, you saw it is stacked. We got like a half dozen guys. We've got a bunch of dirt ringers, and then me trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. So it's going to be a tough one. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do. I feel optimistic going into it. Young's Motorsports has been great to work with. And I feel like truly whenever we go to the track, I always have the mindset of we're here to win. We're here to compete to win, and we've got a shot to win. And
I mean, you make that team look very good when you're out there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great results together, and we got some awesome tracks coming up. I like the dirt tracks. I think anyone's got a shot there. So we feel like those are races that why can't we win? We got Sonoma coming up. We got Mid-Ohio coming up. You know, these are tracks that we're going to and circling saying, we want a trophy here. We want a trophy here. We want a trophy here. So, you know, I think we've got a good shot to try to compete for wins this year and see what we're able to do. And I know if we were able to go out and get a win or two this year, it would help my career hugely. It would help Young's Motorsports. It would be the greatest thing ever. So we'll see if we're able to do it. We're working every day towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. I lied, Kaz. I do have one more for you. It's kind of an off-topic question. I'm sure Austin has one more as well. I'll get to him in a second. Growing up in Boston, and I have to ask this because I have to know, did you grow up watching any Red Sox games, Patriot games, Bruins games, Celtics games? Did you grow up watching any of those teams?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, I was never a stick and ball sport guy like most are in Boston growing up. But I've been to all of those. I've been to a Patriots game. I've been to a Red Sox game. I've been to a Bruins game. Everything up there. And I always loved going to those live sporting events. They were coolest. And actually, my sister used to work for the Boston Blazers, which was Boston's indoor lacrosse team, which played at the Boston Garden, which is where the Celtics and the Bruins play.
Yes.
So since she worked there, we had season tickets to that. We used to go to that every single Thursday. So yeah, I was definitely a Boston sports fan, but I've been a racing guy through and through from a very young age. I can't say
I understand.
There's never been a season where I've watched all the football games or all the baseball games. I'm not really an avid follower of any of those.
I understand.
More race guy. I don't miss a cup race. If I'm watching it on TV, I don't miss a cup race, an Xfinity race, a truck race. It doesn't matter. Like, I could be out to dinner with friends, and I'll have Fox Sports 1 going on my phone if it's Xfinity practice, and I'll have it on my phone.
Yeah, the guy to my right can vouch for you when you say that. Absolutely.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? If the race is on and I'm at work, I find my way to get at least a little bit of a win.
Yeah.
Knowing you would. Austin, you got one more, my guy?
I mean, this is a question that has been going around for years, Kaz, and I think you know where I'm going with this one.
Oh, God.
This was once a video put out by New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
What is a Kaz Grala?
What is a Kaz Grala?
Oh, no. You had to bring that up? Come on, man.
Yes, I did.
New Hampshire Motor Speedway, they used to do, I don't know if they do anymore since COVID, but tracks used to do what's called a race advance, which is they'd pick one driver from an upcoming truck or Xfinity race, and they'll have them come up like the week leading into that race, and they'll do different media opportunities with them to kind of hype up and advertise for the race weekend. So I did that for New Hampshire, of course, since it's my home race. They had me come out, and they came up with this idea of me running around with a microphone, and they're following me with like a little portable camera and just asking random people on the streets of Concord, New Hampshire, what is a Kaz Grala? And I mean, we're not that close to the racetrack. We're like a half hour, 45 minutes from the track on like a Tuesday. It's not crawling with race fans. This is just people like out getting coffee during their work break in the city of Concord. So I'm asking these random people what a Kaz Grala is, and I got some good responses.
You got some ridiculous.
Oh my God!
They thought it was like an animal. They thought it was a country. Bizarre. Somebody said it sounds like the brand of an umbrella or something.
Something like that.
And then it turns out that people actually loved it so much that NASCAR themselves ended up doing a follow-up, what is it, Kaz Grala 2, with 2018. NASCAR had me do that in Charlotte. Do the same thing. We had, so what you don't see on the video, because they edit it out, is the uncomfortable part of me having to go up to each person and ask, hey, are you okay with being filmed? Can I ask you a question? And you get about 75 no's before you get a yes. So it was very uncomfortable for me running around with this microphone in a city and at 18 years old and like uncomfortably asking people who are clearly in a rush to work if they would talk to me on camera. We got a lot of dirty looks, but the funny part was that when I did it for NASCAR, with them being a large corporation and having to do a little bit more legal stuff, I didn't just ask people if they would do it. I had to get them to sign a release on a clipboard before I could ask them the question and then be on the video. So yeah, it was quite an eventful day. In order to get those, dozen decent responses, we were out there for hours trying to get them. So yeah, but those videos came out really, really funny, and I can't even tell you how many people just like in the industry, crew chiefs or other drivers or people on teams that like I'll see that I don't even know, and they'll be like, what is a Kaz Grala? That'll be the first thing they say. Oh gosh.
Will there ever be a third one?
That I don't know. I feel like there has to be someday.
I had to ask, man. I'm sorry.
All right, Jimmy. Sounds like our job. We got to go to a race, get Kaz, and we're going to the streets.
Somewhere we got to make that happen.
We'll have a lot better luck with that question if we're at a racetrack.
Yeah.
What makes it really funny is being completely away from a racetrack, just in the city.
You got to go outside of town.
Oh man. Just go to random people on the streets and sidewalks, be like, "Hey, what's a Kaz Grala?" And be like, "Oh my God, that'd be worth some views."
But back to that, because I asked this in the last interview that I did with you. And you said if you ran a few more Sundays, people might know who you are. So now, to you, is your name out there so people know what a Kaz Grala is?
I don't know if it's out there on the streets of a random city. We'll see. I think I need to keep working a little harder to try to get that. But what matters more to me is it's out there now in the industry, and it's helping me get more rides. So more rides means maybe more random people walking to work on the sidewalk knowing the name. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and we'll see where we land here in a few years.
Yeah, that's a really awesome answer. Austin, you still got one more, my guy? Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, because I'm thinking about something, and this might get your eye too, Jimmy.
Okay.
If somebody was to sponsor you for a race in the Truck or Xfinity series, how much does that range around?
Oh gosh.
I mean, it all depends because you can get different size stickers. For the most part, it's going to be 6 digits to be the main sponsor on a truck or an Xfinity car.
I gotcha.
But we've got all sorts of small stickers. We do some fun stuff on beat posts, and we've had a lot of smaller companies that are trying to get their name out there that just do some social media and a beat post or something. So, a few $1,000s, and you can usually work with a race team and try to do something small and something that will be right for what your company's looking to do. So,
right.
We do anything. I've even done some deals in the past. You've probably seen with Hot Scream.
Yeah.
We've done some like purely social media based deals, not on the race car at all. So we figure everything out.
Very, very fascinating stuff. Well, listen, Kaz, our time's come to a close, man, but this was such a huge honor. It was very nice chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on and talk to us. We really appreciate it, and we're rooting for you all the way, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hey,
no
anytime.
problem.
And hey, you know what? Anytime you want to come back on, just let us know. We can make that work. You're always welcome back.
Thank you.
Anytime. He is Kaz Grala. Before we actually sign off, actually, I forgot to ask you one more question. How can people find you on social media?
Well, if you go to my website, kazgrala.com, you can find links to everything. That's probably the easiest way. But, my Instagram's at Kaz Grala. So is my Twitter. And I got a page on Facebook, Kaz Grala, as well. So you can check me out on everything.
Yeah, very simple enough, just like our social media pages.
I don't TikTok, though. That's the one.
Thank God. Thank God. I'm not the only one. The only one who uses TikTok on this platform is the guy to my right here.
Yes, but I use it for our behind
content.
I use it for our behind the scenes, so don't throw me under the bus now.
That's the only thing you should be using it for. If I catch you doing any of those challenges, I'm done. Anyway, though, that's beside the point. Kaz Grala, again, dude, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much, my guy. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, exactly. He is the one and only Kaz Grala, and we're rooting for this guy all the way throughout his what is presumably to be, in our eyes, an illustrious racing career. For Kaz Grala and for Mr. Taco, I'm Jimmy Finizzi. This is the Bottom Line Podcast, and we will see you in the next episode. Peace and take care.